March 17th here in southern Ontario, Canada. Chapter 3, I think we're on now, of what I'm referring to as the Dutch Farmers' Revolution. Okay, so we're going to move out of Holland here and into Europe as a whole in this chapter. The populism movement, or populist movement, has grown throughout all of Europe to the point of polling shows like 25% of the people are solidly behind it. What's populism? Well, that's just what I'd call common sense in a democracy, which is that the movement, the people in it believe that in a democracy, the politicians are supposed to do what the people want, not the other way around. I can see why it goes back to the root word, popular. I don't want to be enslaved. Now, I don't see any difference between what the woke left calls right-wing extremism or extreme right. I don't see any difference between populism and right-wing politics, but that could just be my opinion. The woke left likes the term extremist, but I don't even know why they're called the woke left. Their brain woke up and left? I don't know. Whatever. So anyways, the populist movement grows all across Europe. Now we got to briefly touch at this point upon the European Parliament. Yes, the European Parliament. Christine Anderson, member of the European Parliament. Now, excuse me. That's why. Excuse me. I'm not going to go into how they really work, what it's all about, but they have an influence upon the country's leaders in the European countries. The European Parliament, heavy saturation with the WEF again, and a lot of the WEF leaders, such as the fellow in Holland, says, well, you know, the European Union says, or the European Parliament says. So, all goes back to the WEF, and we don't really need to understand how the European Parliament works and influences and whatnot. Christine Anderson, again, is part of the European Parliament. They're not all WEF members. Where are my notes? So, I want to come to Italy here, because Italy and Spain, amongst others, are having the same farmers' revolt, I'll call it, against the European Union's and the WEF's no nitrogen policy, which we know is all scam and just designed for political power and to starve us and etc. Okay, so we come to Italy, found it here. Georgia Meloni, Meloni, I think it's pronounced. She's head of the ruling party in Italy right now. And like Holland, they have a multi-party system. I think they have 11 parties. But she's hugely popular with a 52% popularity rating, which spread over 11 parties is, I mean, it's unprecedented in Italian history, and it's, 52% when you divide it up amongst all those parties is pretty huge. The left calls her a far right-wing extremist, of course. So we have Holland, Italy, Spain, all on the same page. And again, 25% of the whole European countries with the populist movement. There could be hope, couldn't there? Certainly encouraging. Now, I'm just going to touch on France briefly, because the leader of France, I'd have to go way back in my notes. I didn't fact check myself, but I'm pretty sure he's a Young Global Leaders graduate as well. They're rioting heavily in France and have been for quite a while with farmers, but it got overshadowed because they're revolting about their president has decreed that the retirement age is going to go from 62 to 64. The French people don't like that. But worse yet, he didn't go through parliamentary legislative process. He used what would be the equivalent of Trudeau's order in council to disarm the Canadian people taking their firearms under Bill C-21. Why do we have a bill if he did it in an order in council? Sorry, I digress a bit. You see my point. The French president said, I decree. Shades of Trudeau. Okay, I'm going to leave this video here, and we're going to move on to Sri Lanka next, and some other countries, and how all that ties into the WEF and Holland. I hope you're still with me.